Good afternoon, my name is Mayra and I'm here to introduce to you a proposal to modify technical communications with video gaming aspects for the modern learner. And so in this presentation, we will have an introduction where we will discuss the problems of today's technical communications course. We will go into the background of video gaming, and then move on to course modifications, and then lastly, end with a conclusion. All right, with that being said, we'll move into the introduction. So being quite honest, today's students are not excited about technical communications course. As a matter of fact, they're very apathetic. And this in part can be attributed to the technical communications course itself, the structure. Number one, the primary source of information for the student, the primary venue of it, is lecture. And being honest, what lecture actually means is that for the next hour, the college student will be warming up a seat and dozing off while the professor just rambles on. What this does is, number one, it leaves the student unmotivated. All they got out of that was nap time. I can do that anywhere else. All right? And then another aspect that we have to take into account is the fact that it leaves the students with a lack of purpose. The learning cycle is really lecture, 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 exam, lecture, 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 exam. With this constant routine, it doesn't give the student time to connect the information that they gain in class to real-life applications. With that being said, it also encourages brute memorization, which basically is the lowest level of education that you can get, is brute memorization. With that being said, it's basically just remember everything that your professor said during lecture, regurgitate it on the exam, and you'll pass the class, when really you haven't really learned the course material. All right, so overall, today's technical communication course leaves students unmotivated, unexperienced, and hence unteachable. All right, now we will move into the background of video games. So, to begin with, video games have been given a very bad reputation that it doesn't deserve. Like every other piece of technology, it's a double-edged sword. As Douglas from the University of Iowa State University has commented, you know, video games is not inherently good or inherently bad. You know what? Video games are exactly what we designed them to be. And as such, they are powerful teachers that we can harness. With that being said, the power of the video games has actually been seen in today's modern industries. They've actually incorporated video games because they see that it's so effective. As you can see up here, one of them is the aviation industry. This is actually a flight simulator, which by multiple sources has been said to actually be better than airborne training. Because number one, flight simulation can do what airborne training cannot. It can reproduce the worst situations possible without endangering any lives whatsoever. With that being said, the pilot is then left prepared for any situation that can be thrown his or her way. All right. Another industry that has also adopted video games into their training is the medical field. Surgeons actually have a surgeon simulation game where they actually basically replicate a procedure, and they are actually able to see what their effects have on the patient as well. And the effect of this is that it has actually reduced the 8th leading cause of death in the United States, which is actually medical error, believe it or not. Makes you feel safe, doesn't it? All right, so with that being said, also studies have shown that surgeons that actually play video games 3 or more hours a week are actually more successful in the procedures that they perform. With that being said, it's mainly because of just the hand and eye coordination that they gain through video games. All right, so we have this powerful tool that we can use, video games, that's good enough for the aviation industry and good enough for the medical field. Why is it not good enough for our educational system? All right, now we will move on to course modifications. So what I propose in order to modify the technical communications course for the modern learner is to incorporate games. With that being said, like I said earlier, with surgeons, the video game, the simulation game, does not replace their training completely. Okay? It's just a tool off to the side that helps the surgeon refresh his or her memory on the information that they learned, and it helps to keep that tie between what they learned and the real-world situation going. All right, so with that being said, here are a couple of games that I proposed. As I discussed earlier, America's Next Speaker, At the Speed of Light, and Convince Me. Right, America's Next Speaker basically produces a virtual reality for the student where they're thrown into an auditorium and they have to perform their speech. Right, with that being said, it helps the student prepare to be on the spotlight. It leaves them more confident and it basically really just impresses the employer. One of the #1 things that they look for is people that have good communication skills and that can represent their ideas. Right, the next game I proposed is called At the Speed of Light. For this, the student will receive an email that's either from a client, coworker, or manager, and they have to respond as fast as they can in the proper format. So basically, as soon as they start typing, the clock watch just keeps on going, okay? And the reason I designed this game is because today's workplace is very digital. Constant communication is not just a requirement, it's a standard expectation. They want you to respond fast and they want you to respond properly. So with this game, we want the student to just automatically, off the bat, as a habit, know how to write a very good email, no matter what the audience. Right, and now we will go on to Convince Me. This is a game where the teacher will split the students up into a group and give them a prompt. The students then have to discuss that prompt and actually come up with a unanimous stand on that prompt. Write a paragraph that's persuasive and evaluates the pros and cons of their stand. And with that, the instructor will actually evaluate each paragraph and give points as desired based on the content, best content. And with that being said, Convince Me was, I invented the game just so that students know what to expect out of a business meeting, how a collaborative and effective business meeting should look like. All right, with that being said, we'll move on to conclusion. So as you have now noticed, my overall conclusion is basically we need to incorporate video games into our technical communications course. The modern day learner needs to be engaged. They can't just sit back and just, listen to a lecture for an hour. They need to be engaged right now. And with that being said, I believe that these video games will be like a tool bag that the instructor can use to engage students. And with that, it will leave students more motivated, it will leave them more experienced for the real world, and it will also leave them engaged while they're taking the course. Right, with that being said, can I answer any questions?